Welcome to the Guide, Not Guru podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Brock. My purpose is to empower women to create authentic, aligned, and abundant lives. After over a decade of mentoring women in business and self-leadership, I found that we don't need to adopt a guru's blueprint. We need guides to help us build our own. So if you're ready to lead and be a work in progress, you've come to the right place. Hey, my friends, I am super excited to have the first ever guest on the Guide Not Guru podcast. And it's Erin Jones, who is an expert, a teacher, and a guide around human design. And I'm so excited to bring her to you all today because one of the things that I'm obsessed with is my own personal evolution and better understanding myself so I can live a life that feels aligned. And understanding my human design changed my life. It changed the way that I grow my business. It changed the way that I create offers in the world. It changed the way that I parent and the way that I am in a marriage and a partnership. And so I'm so excited to have Erin. Thank you for joining us here today.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so honored to be the first ever guest.
You are. And actually, we're just really meeting each other other than in the DMs.
Yeah.
But we've known you as far as my business. And like literally, I've known you because it was January of 2021. I first heard about human design. And when I understood it, I felt like I had this just like, that's me. Mm-hmm. That's me. Like, yeah. How could something out there know me so well? And so I'm excited to unpack that and unpack your story and just a little bit more for our listeners today. So Erin, tell us just a little bit more about you and what you do and what human design is.
Of course. So my name's Erin and I work with a system called Human Design. I've been working with Human Design for 8 years now. Human Design is a system based on your time, date, and place of birth that reveals how you're uniquely wired to thrive, whether it's in your work, your family, your relationships, or your life. It really gives us each our own blueprint and kind of operating manual to how we work best. And I think that I had explored many modalities in the past, but when I discovered human design, which was super serendipitous, it just made sense to me in a way that no other system had, because I think that it's so specific to the individual. Like human design is not a system where it's like, oh, you and I are the same. It's like, we might share a type, we might share a profile, but like, we're all so unique. But I think actually what's so special about human design is that it's really actionable. It doesn't just give us all this juicy information about ourselves, which is always fun to learn, but sometimes we get that information and then we're like, now what? And I think human design gives us all the self-knowledge coupled with these really actionable tools that we can use to just bring into our lives to actually find more flow. So it's been an amazing journey and I feel so lucky to have discovered it when I did, but also to now have a world that seems to be really excited about it, which was definitely not the case when I first started sharing about human design. So I'm just glad we're all on the same page now.
Totally. And it's funny, if I was to go through my Instagram, like saves, it would be like details, Erin, details, Erin, details, Erin. If I was to go to my business manager, Kesley, and to look at our DM chats, it's like, here you are, projector, here I am, generator. So it's like, I'm so glad to see so many people are loving your information too. You just said that it was serendipitous. Tell me about that. What does that mean?
It was just like, so not the plan. Human design was, I never heard of it before, but I discovered it in 2015. I was basically at a friend's gathering. I was living in New York City and I sat next to a stranger who asked to read my human design chart. And I had never heard of human design before, but I think like many of us, I was like, tell me everything, like want to hear what you see. And he proceeded to give me kind of the most like accurate, insightful, like mini reading of all time, where I was like, I've never had somebody put me into words so accurately, but I also had never felt so called out. I was like, wow. I've been like running away from this my whole life. Like, am I actually allowed to operate that way? Like, is that really allowed? And he actually ended that conversation by saying, Erin, like, I think you're meant to do this. And I think we're actually meant to like build a business together. And, human design is not predictive. He was not like, Erin is destined to do human design. He just could sense that like I might have a knack for it, but also that we had a lot of compatibility. And so he invited me in to study with him. So he was my first teacher, my business partner. We built a business for a couple of years before I launched my own practice. So and so much of my own human design is about being invited in. And so when I think back to kind of the origin of like being introduced to human design, I was just like invited into it by a total stranger. And I was like, yes, this feels right. I'm in. So it's just wild. And like I said, it's amazing to see all the excitement now, but like this was at a time when like human design was very fringe. And the first couple of years building the business were challenging because like there was so much education. No one knew what it was.
Yeah.
And so at some point I was like, I just don't know if people are ever going to really care. Like this is like gold, this system, but I can't force it on people. So that's what's been so amazing, kind of witnessing the journey and witnessing the excitement grow.
And I think that's so good. And I'll tell you what I know about the women who are listening to me. They're probably at that halfway point. I bet half of my audience knows what human design is, and the other half is like, please educate me. I don't know what you're saying. What is this? And so in a moment, I would love to kind of unpack what human design is and a little bit more about it. But something that you just said I thought was really interesting. When I was introduced to it, Erin, I was in a mastermind. It was the first time I stepped into a mastermind that was very woo. And
Mm-hmm.
I had come from a Christian background and I had been in the business world. So everything was very structured and masculine. And like this mastermind was like, you're just going to feel it. And I was like, I don't know why. I think I feel it, but what are you even saying to me? And someone talked about human design. And I remember feeling a little nervous. Like, is this a psychic reading?
Yeah.
This is in the stars. What does that mean? And I've come to shift my beliefs a lot about the stars and about who we are. And now I'm like, of course we're written in the stars. I see it, but
Mm.
I'm curious how you would frame that for someone. You said it's not predictive.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think especially because like my whole goal with human design is to make it as accessible as it can be. And I worked with many very skeptical people for good reason. It's wild that we could ever know this much based on the stars. But when I say it's not predictive, is that like human design is not a system where I'm going to sit with somebody and be like, in 5 years, this will happen, and you're going to do this for work and meet this kind of person. Like it actually gives us all the agency to discover that for ourselves. It just helps us know kind of how to align with a path that will make that much easier. And so that's kind of the magic is like, let me just help you understand how you operate best. And then you get to do it and see what happens when you do. In terms of how I would deliver it, I work with a lot of teams, and that was sort of how my business was founded, is really focused on bringing human design to business, just because like,
Wow.
obviously, as you probably noticed with Kesley, it's like really useful to know how the people you work with operate best.
Yep.
And I think that I've really learned to just like share human design as a tool, where basically the way that I present it is like, this is a tool, take it or leave it. If it feels supportive, take it in. If it doesn't, let it go. Like I
Yep.
always remind people that like, I'm not trying to convince them of anything. Like what matters to me is not whether it's true, but whether it's useful. And I think
Mm,
when the skeptics that I've worked with are presented human design in that way, there's just like a lot more agency for them to be like, you know what? Like this actually feels really good, and I
yeah.
can't tell you how many clients I've had that are like, Erin, I don't want to believe what you're saying. Like this is just like, it's so woo. It's so beyond my comfort zone. And yet everything that you're sharing is so resonant that I need to know everything. And I also need to know everything about my business partner and also my kids and my partner. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
so like, I think it's just with all things, it's about how we share it. And I think because I'm not trying to convince people of it, I think a lot of people often feel a bit more free to like take it or leave it. And if they're like, this doesn't resonate, I'm like, cool, great, let it
Yeah.
go. And honestly, like that actually does not happen very often. And
Mm,
still, I just think that like human design is a tool and, we always know best. And so just really
mm.
kind of trusting ourselves to know when we're ready for it, if we're ready for it, and if it actually feels like a useful tool for us.
I love that. And so I know in human design, it has different energy types. Could you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about the energy types and the profile and some of the key parts that help us live more aligned lives?
Of course. So human design is pretty endless. If you've like looked it up, you're probably just like, whoa, that's a lot of information. So if you want to look up your human design to look up your type, you can go to humandesignblueprint.com. It's going to be a very wild looking chart. It's not a very intuitive looking one. But at the beginning, what you want to look at is your type. And there are 5 different types: manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. And then there are many different pieces underneath that. So we'll start with manifesting generators and generators just to kind of give a quick overview. Manifesting generators and generators are really here to be the doers. They really have the capacity to kind of build, create, and make things happen. And what's most important is that they are so genuinely lit up and satisfied and excited by what they're doing. When they're lit up by what they're doing, like that energy ripples out and lifts up everyone around them. And a big lesson for them both is around boundaries, because they carry such natural vitality and energy. People can really want to take advantage of it, and not in any kind of malicious way. They're just like, oh, they're capable, like help me, you know? And so it's so important for these types to have really strong boundaries and to really prioritize their excitement. Generators like you are really have such capacity for like kind of mastery, like really diving deeply into things, like bringing ideas to life so powerfully, so beautifully. Manifesting generators, and some group them together entirely. Manifesting generators are often quite multi-passionate. They might find their energy moving in between lots of different things. They're often very fast. You know, they can skip a few steps along the way. So it's important to give themselves permission to pivot. And the last piece that I would just share about both those types is that the strategy, we all have a strategy, which is basically how to create opportunities. The strategy for both of those types is around magnetism and letting life come to you and waiting for something to light up your gut response before you go after it. You know, and so it's so the opposite of the way most of us have been taught. And like, I would say you have such capacity to make things happen, but it's meant to be in response. It's not you sitting at home. Go ahead.
Can we pause on that
Of course,
for a minute?
yeah.
Because when I first learned that, I'm like, did you just tell me to wait? Yeah. Did you just like this profile just told me I'm supposed to wait when I'm used to being a doer? I'm used to being an activator. I know that I'm capable. And what does waiting and responding look like? Give us an example.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like just tempted to like take the language of wait out altogether. Like, because you're always responding. Basically, the idea is like to not respond would be like you sitting at home and be like, I have to like come up with my next offer. What is it? Like, I just like, I'm going to do this because like, I think that I should. Like, it's not, you're not responding to anything. You're just like trying to make a thing happen. Responding is like you're having a conversation with someone on your team. You are listening to a podcast. A client reaches out to you and they like present an idea, or an idea comes up, and your gut, your body just like opens up. You feel such expansion, excitement, where you're like, I must do that thing, you know? And so like, that's a response. So you're basically waiting to be moved into action based on that gut feeling and not what you think you should do. And it's interesting because like sometimes like you might think you want a thing, but your body doesn't really respond to it. And then your body might respond to certain things where you're like, I didn't think that was the direction my business was going to go in, but like, I must do it. And the idea is that our body just carries such innate wisdom and really will let you know what you have the energy for. And so the work is to really honor that.
So cool. I love that.
Does that make
Tell
sense?
us about the next. Yeah. Tell us about the next type.
So projectors are really, did you say Kelsey's a projector?
She's a projector. Yeah.
Cool. So projectors, it's cool because generators and projectors are often really good collaborators. So projectors are really natural leaders, guides, teachers, advisors, not here to do all the doing. They often are so innately sensitive to others and so kind of gifted at helping others know how to use their energy best. Often really good at asking the right questions, which probably is really good for you to have around. Their energy can really ebb and flow. So they aren't really meant to like do all day long. So building space and rest and ease into their days is so important. And as projectors, I'm also a projector. We're often very focused on the other, you know, how to kind of best support and guide the other. My business partner is also a generator. So we kind of have that dynamic as well. And it's just been the best. But I would say the strategy for us as projectors is to be recognized and invited. So like I shared in how I was introduced to human design, we're kind of meant to wait for somebody to be like, hey, I see you. I see your gifts. I value them. Like, I want to create a platform for them. I want you to share them here. And so we're really here to kind of wait for the right invitations and the right kind of recognition to really share our magic, you know, because it's just a very different way. Our gifts are very different. So it's important to kind of not try to share them with people that don't see them. And projectors can be like a little bit of a know-it-all at times because we just see a lot. But if somebody's not ready to hear what you see, it's often not going to land. So an invitation just protects our energy and lets us know who's ready for us and when.
Well, and Erin, let me ask you this. Yeah. So many of my, listeners are entrepreneurs. And how does a projector create invitations for themselves in business? How do they present in a way that gets them invited?
Yeah, great question. So as projectors, like us kind of initiating or chasing after things doesn't tend to work. I've tried it, and sometimes it's successful, but it's like, it burns me out like so quickly and I know is not sustainable. I think that our biggest job as projectors is to make ourselves visible. People cannot
Wow.
invite us unless they see us. So our job is to let ourselves be seen. So for me in our business, like my work has not been like, let me go pitch all these people, but it's more like, let me just share, let me share in my newsletters, on my Instagram, on podcasts. And I'm just going to like share what I feel about human design. And like, I'm going to allow the right people to resonate and come to me.
So cool.
I know that I'm not for everyone because none of us are, but I know that like my job is visibility. Like it's really been my job in the business is just sharing, sharing, sharing and allowing the right people to come. So I would just remember that as a projector, like what's a platform that you can make yourself visible on? I know for me, like I'm not the kind of person that can be like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Like I'm just like, I'm kind of like one and done,
Hmm.
So like Instagram's really been one outlet for me, but I would just consider a place to make yourself visible and let people know that you and your offerings exist.
I love that. I love that. And, with the, each one is a different energy type, and it's because we have access to a different amount of energy naturally
Mm-hmm.
or not. And the projector is someone who does not have a ton of natural energy. And so it's why they should rest. Is that correct?
Well, it's just that our energy is not consistent. And so
Consistent.
it
There we go.
basically, so instead of just like as generators, like for you, there's this like kind of you wake up with an amount of energy every day and you kind of got to use it up. Like if
Hmm.
you don't fully expend your energy, you'll probably go to bed and feel pretty restless,
Yeah.
but if you're lit up by what you're doing, like you create more energy, you lift up everyone around you. And so like, but you've got to use it up. That's part of your job, and it doesn't have to be working. Like it could be going on walks, or seeing friends or making music, whatever it is. um, for projectors, our energy can really ebb and flow where we can have like a burst where we can make a lot happen and then like need a rest and like slow down and then like another burst might come. And so it's not about like not making things happen, but it's more about doing it like at our own pace and in our own way. And in a way that's probably going to ebb and flow. And it's also like, we're just not here to be doers. So there's a
Mm.
real temptation to just like go, 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 but we often can't. But one thing to know about projectors is that we're very sensitive to other people's energy. So like if you're excited by what you're doing, I would probably be like, I am so amped up. I can do anything, which is like
Yes.
so fun to be around, but it also requires the awareness for me of like, and now it's time to pull away and rest, because I can't
Yep.
rely on that all the time. So we can be incredibly energized, but in bursts and space and rest are really important to kind of balance that with.
And what's the lesson that they have to learn? What's the kind of, you said boundaries for generators, but what does a projector need to know?
Well, I think two big ones that come up. One is that we're not here to be doers. Like we live in a world of a lot of doers. And so we're very prone as projectors to being really overzealous and just burning ourselves out. So just kind of trying on this idea that your gift is really in how you see and not how much you do. I would say the second lesson is that like not everyone is ready to hear what you see,
Mm.
and it's honestly like it's just a waste of your energy to share it. Like you might have a friend or a family member where you're like, I just see how you could transform everything, but like if they're not inviting you in, if they're not open to it, like it's not gonna like they're not gonna hear it, and like you're gonna feel exhausted by sharing it. And so I think that's been the biggest tool for me is like an invitation as a tool to protect my energy. And like I
Mm.
said, let me know who's ready for my energy and when, and not try to guide people that aren't asking for it.
That's so cool. I love it. Tell us about the next type.
So manifestors are really here to be the initiators, the disruptors, the ones that are really good at getting things started and getting the ball rolling. They are not designed to do all the doing themselves as well. Like they've got often a lot of energy at the beginning, like getting a thing off the ground. They tend to be people that need a lot of freedom. Like they are not
Mm.
here to be told what to do or managed or guided in any way, here to do things on their own terms and in their own way. Their energy can be like operate in bursts as well. But like for them, they could have a couple hours, a couple days, a couple weeks where they're like absolutely on fire and they need to kind of pull back and hibernate and like wait for the next
Mm.
idea to emerge within them. Um, and they're kind of here to be the first. It can be scary at times because they often see where things are going before others do,
Mm.
and so it can be hard to be like, oh, I'm walking this path and no one else is going here yet. But like that's their gift is kind of really walking it before anyone else does. And their strategy is about initiating. They are not here
Mm.
to wait for anything to come to them. They're here to wait for things to bubble up within them. And once they feel the urge or the inspiration to just go make that thing happen without knowing where it's going to take them. And it's also healthy for them to kind of just keep people in the loop. If they just go about initiating and don't let people know, people can be really, they can just be a little bit resistant to their energy, And so it's really good to just like keep people in the loop because I think it allows them to really create things with a bit more ease.
And can you give me an example of someone who's a manifester that you could say, this is what it meant. This person had an idea and they didn't wait for it. They went and did it. So someone else can wrap their mind around what that might look like.
Yeah, it's like, I have a client that I worked with who's an entrepreneur, and like it's so funny because all of her team knows how to work with her manifestor energy, where she'll kind of just like be in her own space and then kind of like come out and be like, I must do this thing. And the whole team gets like so excited by it. And then she'll like make this idea happen or put this offering out into the world. It's not a thing she responded to. It's a thing that just kind of like came up within her. And then after she puts it out, she kind of retreats again, and her team really learns like, okay, now we like maintain this thing, but like we've got to let her do her thing and like let the next thing come up,
Wow.
And so for her, it's not about like, let me just sustain this and figure it out. It's like, let me just like bring the inspiration and then pull back. And I think it's so important for manifestors to give themselves time to pull back, because like when they pull back is when the new ideas come to them. And so if they're not giving themselves that space to kind of rest, they don't see all the ideas and things that are actually arising within them.
And what lesson do they have to learn? What do they need to understand about themselves?
I think that manifestors are pretty rare. It's like 8 to 9% of the population. And so they often haven't really felt permission to be as powerful as they are. So I think a lot of manifestors that I've sat with have really resorted to like people pleasing or like asking for permission or things like that, when like they're really here to just do it, that like. And so I think a big lesson for them is noticing where they're holding themselves back to try to please or accommodate others, and trust like the bigger, the bolder, the more courageous they are, the more impactful they'll be. I would also say another big lesson for them is just allowing it rest, knowing that like all the inspiration and urges that are meant to come to them only can come when they actually give themselves time to like slow down and aren't forcing their lives to like have consistent momentum all the time.
Wow. And I'm curious because, we hear the word manifestation. All of the designs are manifesting their lives. But I think that's an important distinction, because it's not like the manifestor is the only one who gets what they want in life. Like what would you say around manifestation with each of these types?
Yeah, I think that like, we all do it differently. It's like, I think the founder of Human Design, who's no longer alive, his name is Ra Uhuru, who it's like, some of the names in Human Design are a little bit funny. I think that like manifestors, like one of their gifts is like once they have the idea, they can make it happen very quickly. But like you said, any type can like manifest their life and create their dreams and all of it. But it's all about kind of doing it in the way that works for us. For me, when I think about like creating the life that I have, a lot of it's come from the invitation. It's been around like getting clear and making myself visible, but like waiting for the right moment and the right invitation for it actually to emerge. And for you, my guess is like the most exciting life for you is the one you respond to, is not the one you think you should pursue, and your gut is always taking you in that direction. So I think that like it's available to all of us. Human Design just kind of lets us know that we're all meant to do it differently. And I think that's honestly just a thing that's true of Human Design in general, is that Human Design like is never meant to tell us what we cannot do. It just lets us know how we'll do it best.
And I love that because, Erin, so much of my life and my work is intuition work, because I spent, you'll probably know this once I say it, I'm a 6-3 generator. So the first 30 years of my life, apparently in my profile, is that I was not myself. I was not myself for the first 30 years. And that is so deep in me that I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. And I was looking around me to say, what do we all think is best? Does 7 out of my 10 friends think I should do this? I'll do it. And so now I care so much about helping the women that I work with find their own intuition. And I love that for anyone who's listening, when you start to dive into Human Design, it actually teaches you more about how your intuition shows up for you too.
Totally.
Oh, is it in the body? Is it in the gut? Is it in a moment? Like Kesley is a projector. Hers is so fast. It's like micro.
Yeah.
Right? Would you say that's true for you as a projector? How do those micro moments show up for you?
Yeah, it's so actually beyond type, but I think that this comes from a piece, and there's actually one more type. I don't want to forget about the reflectors, so we can come back to them. But I think that there's a piece of our design called our inner authority, which speaks to how we best make decisions. And like you said, it's like we are all intuitive in our own ways, but Human Design helps us know how to access it. Like for you are gut feeling all the way. It's like visceral belly taking me there. Not, I don't know Kelsey's design, but I'm assuming based on what you said that like she's very intuitively driven. It's not a gut feeling. It's more like a quiet whisper, a resonance, a feeling, and it like is very fast. I'm also a projector, and like I have that instinct, but I'm actually not meant to trust it in the moment. So
Ooh.
the
So
clarity
you
for
ride the
me,
wave.
yeah, the clarity for me is very much like, let me just sleep on things and see what continues to feel right. And some people find clarity by talking things out. It's by saying things out loud that their voice kind of reveals their knowing. So it's such a good reminder, like, how do we connect to that knowing? And it's going to be different for each of us, because there's
Mm,
all this blanket advice of like, listen to your gut, trust your gut. Not all of us have access to that,
mm.
And so it just really helps us know, like, what is a way of making decisions and really assessing what's right for us in a way that really works for us.
That's so cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us about the reflectors, because I believe they're the most rare design. Am I right?
Correct. They're 1% of the population. So
Wow.
reflectors are collective mirrors. They are people that are very sensitive to their physical space and always kind of taking in and magnifying the energy that they're around. So you get a really good sense of how a company, a team, a family is doing just based on how that reflector is showing up. So they really need to be such ruthless curators of who and where they're spending time with and in, and they're very fluid. They're gonna have days where they feel like a generator like you, like a projector like me, like a manifesting generator, like a manifestor. And like
Wow.
their job is never to be consistent or show up in just one way, but to honor whatever feels like them that day, knowing that it's all
Wow.
them. And we call them evaluators in the context of business, just because they have a gift for really seeing and sensing things that most people don't. And so it's really
Mm.
good for them to kind of be in spaces where their perspective is super valued, super recognized, and very invited in.
And how would that come across in a relationship with a reflector or in business with a reflector? How might their reflection show up?
Well, I think that like if a reflector is like in a team that feels really amazing, they're probably going to show up really energized and excited. And like, but if they're not, they're going to really feel it all. And so
Mm.
like, and I see this a lot in romantic relationships with reflectors where like somebody's going through a thing and they get frustrated by their partner because their partner's just mirroring back to them where they are. So I always
Oh,
say like
wow.
one of the best ways to really kind of take care of a reflector partner is to take good care of yourself. And the
Wow.
lesson for the reflector is really knowing that like, while they're deeply sensitive, which is what makes them so profoundly wise, they also are really here to like learn a healthy sense of detachment and objectivity, where it's like, I can take in this stuff, but I know it's not my own. Like I'm not getting enmeshed
Wow.
in energy that's not my own. So they're actually incredibly resilient people, but it
Wow.
requires that awareness, because often without awareness, they're just like can get pulled into all these like stresses and emotions and anxieties that are not actually theirs. And their
Mm.
gift is really kind of like feeling it all, observing, offering their perspective on it, but not getting lost in it.
And I think that's so powerful, Erin, because when we understand these things about ourselves, we stop looking outside for everyone else who's doing it a certain way and thinking we're getting it wrong. I find that for me, I was just
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be consistent like that person? Or what's wrong with me? Why can't I rest like that person? Or what's wrong with me? Why
Mm-hmm.
can't I just make things happen or have those ideas? And it's like, when I understood myself, I understood better how things flowed to me and how
Mm-hmm.
to use my energy. And, I would love to talk about the blueprint,
Mm.
because you created what is one of the like some of the best money I've ever spent in my life
Oh
was
my
on your blueprint. I'm not
God.
even kidding. I I made it a requirement almost for my mastermind. I was like, everyone go get this right now.
Oh my God.
It's why we needed a code. So everyone who's listening, you're going to have the code is actually Kelly 10 for Erin's blueprint. Because when you read this book about yourself, it's how we even connected. I sent you a DM and I had like no makeup on. I was like, if I had known she was going to want this video, I would have like looked
And I was
nicer.
like, I'm
But
reposting it.
I know. I sent Erin this DM and I was like, I just need to tell you that I've looked at this blueprint so many times and I am wanting to give it to every single one of my clients. How can I pretty much be an affiliate of yours, or how can I be connected? Because this is so transformational for the women who have used it, that I coach to it. My one-on-one clients, we bring that up in
So good.
conversation. We speak to their design, and all of a sudden the things they thought were broken in them, they're like, "Oh yeah, I should understand this about myself," or they're more compassionate with the challenges
Mm-hmm.
that are coming up. And so it has been so big for me, and I want you to just explain, what is the blueprint and why does it matter to people?
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, thanks for saying all that.
I believe it.
Um, it's so fun. It like really, it was like our soul offering for 3 years, and now we're like,
Wow.
expanding into other things, but it was so amazing because we just wanted to like really like just have a really excellent thing, you know? And so it just hearing that feedback means a lot because it's been a real labor of love.
Yeah.
So the blueprint is a book all about your unique design. So it is 55 plus pages. They're all different lengths because we all have different designs, but it basically walks you through all the most important pieces of your unique design in a way that is super practical and empowering and actionable. And so like, you know, I have people that get it that are human design readers because they want to have their own resource manual, but I also have people who get it for their entire teams or all their clients. So it's really meant to be accessible to people, whether or not you have a background in human design, because my work is really just translating it to make it accessible. But it's just like our operating manual. Like think of like, this is your roadmap to how to find more flow in your life, whether, like I said, it's in your business, relationships, or life. And it's been a really fun thing to create. And it's been so amazing to kind of witness so many people get their blueprints and share them with their clients and their families and their teams and their partners, because it's really not only an amazing tool to really find more alignment in our own lives, it's an amazing tool to really understand the people closest to us and how to best support them, because as you probably discovered with your clients and with those on your team, like they operate differently than you. So if you expect them to be like you, it'll be very disappointing. If you really kind of give them space to be like them, it can be so powerful.
And what are some of the different categories people will find in the blueprint?
Yeah. So the blueprint will go through your type, like we talked about, your strategy, how you create opportunities, your inner authority, which is around how you best make decisions, your profile, which is around how you best align with your purpose, your definition, which is how you best process, your channels, which are all your strengths, all those shapes in your design, we call them your undefined and defined centers. So basically the things that can take you the most off track and you have the biggest lessons to learn, as well as the areas that are like more consistent and reliable. It goes through the not self and the signature, kind of signposts to just keep you on track. And I'm sure there are things I'm forgetting, but it's a lot, you know, and I love what you said around returning to it, because I think I really try to remind people of this very often, that it's not meant to be a resource that you return to just once. Like it's, you know, I have a client who has them for all of her kids and her partner. They're like on her bedside table and she picks them up every day and like kind of opens to a page because like a new thing will emerge. So it's meant to be a thing that you keep returning to. And I would say probably especially in moments of resistance or challenge, it's a really good thing to kind of get you back on track.
And, you know, it's funny that you said that about your client, because I literally just wrote down, of course, I'm taking notes because I'm like, oh, she's brilliant. I wrote, get a bound book for each of my family members, like literally a nice hardback bound book so that we can just have our own little ones.
Totally.
I've gotten Josh and Everly and Rainer. I have a daughter and a son, and then my husband. And what's so cool is truly to not only understand yourself, but to understand the people that you love, because
Oh my
we
God, yeah.
sometimes go, why aren't you acting the way I want you to act? Because we think the way we see the world is the right way the world is. And when we
100%.
understand this little person, this person you love, is created to live in a different world just with you. And, you know, my son is wildly empathic and he has an abundance of energy. And when I looked in his design, and I've got to go look back at it again, but it was just like, he's a manifesting generator. Of course he's leaving piles of this puzzle and this thing and this craft, and he
Like,
doesn't
I'm
think
starting
about
it
it when
all,
he's done.
trying it
Oh,
all.
absolutely. And when I go to put things away, he's like, no, I'm doing all those things.
Oh
Like,
my God.
but he's a manifesting generator. So his mind moves so fast. And
Wow.
yeah, and just like his emotional piece was in his design, and it's just like, you're not wrong for being this way. You're right. You know, this is who you are, and how can it? You know, it's helped me even in my parenting to be a more compassionate mom.
Totally.
Like, I want you to be exactly who you are, and I want to better understand how to help you be all that you are, because we get so lost in the world.
Totally.
This is what good boys and girls look like. This is what great parents look like. And it's like, no, this is what me as a human looks like. And there's something so inspiring when we are ourselves. We give other
Totally.
people permission. And so, Erin, you're doing that. And it's so fun because my community, my mastermind, my clients, my team, we geek out on this. We literally send each other DMs every Sunday. What's the one you do every Sunday? You
The
put out
quotes.
the quotes. Yes. She puts
Yeah.
out quotes for every single design, and we will just send it to each other. I'm like, there you are. there I am. There you are. There I am. And it's
Oh.
just this confirmation of even, I see you.
Hmm.
It's so cool to even be seen in that way. So I love that. And,
Hmm.
one of the things, Erin, I had asked you right before we got on that I was super curious about was I saw that you did I think it was 12-week
Yeah.
course where you
Yeah.
could actually learn how to use human design and teach to human design. Will you tell us a little bit more about that? And is that coming again?
Of course. Yeah. I think that I've been asked to teach for a long time. And I think it was really hard to hold back. Every year I was like, I want to do a course this year. But it's just, I mean, it's hard, it's just like, I want to do a bajillion things. And I
Mm.
think that we just like really had to wait for the right moment. And the moment was this year. And so we launched our first course, which was a 12-week course all around how to actually read a chart, and I had lots of existing readers, people who wanted to integrate it into their practice, people that just wanted to understand their family better. But I think my orientation towards human design is just like really practical. I think that
Mm.
I was like, I taught to every aspect of the chart, but then I taught to like how to use it in our career, how to use it in parenting, how to use it in our romantic relationships, So it's really was meant to be super applicable. But I just finished up that course with the first 200 students, which was amazing. And they were
Wow.
amazing. And now I am working my butt off to get my last 6 weeks of pregnancy to get get a new version out, basically take all the lessons I've learned and create a kind of like move at your own pace version of it. So the intention is to launch that in November.
Oh, that's
Um,
exciting.
because I know that like, live is amazing. It's also not for everybody. And this is just like a much easier way to kind of go through the material. And we also created a live community. So if you still want that liveness, there's still ways to kind of access that on a monthly basis with me. But, it's been, let's see, I have a lot to do in the next 2 weeks. So the intention is to launch it in November. If my baby comes early, everything is off. But I think that like, I think it's going to happen.
I believe it is because I'm waiting
Mm-hmm.
for it.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I'll be in there
I
for
hope
sure.
you're there. Yes.
Oh,
Okay. That makes me so happy.
I'm already on the email. I literally went to it and was like, okay, they haven't announced when it is, but you had a little thing. Just put your email here. I'm on it. I already was on it like
Oh
weeks
my
ago.
God. Yes. Okay. Well, November's the intention.
I'm so
It's going to
happy
happen.
about that.
November is happening. Yeah.
I love it. So, Erin, tell us like, where are you growing? What's expanding for you? Like, what's a part of your future, like vision and human design? And
It's so funny you
yeah.
asked that. I was like, my belly for sure. But in terms of where I'm growing in human design, I have spent the past, I don't know, I've been working with human design since 2015, like many thousands of sessions. I've been booked out in sessions for the past many years, made tens of thousands of blueprints. Like it's been amazing. But I think that where I'm really moving right now is just towards teaching,
Mm.
and really building community around human design. And I think that it's just fun to really like now have all these students and be able to kind of really funnel people towards them. And also just like create, again, why I think people were drawn to my teaching. And again, I'm not for everyone because none of us are, but like, I think the people that were drawn to me were drawn to just like kind of the empowering practical lens through which I view human design. And so I think that it's been really fun to kind of start to build a much bigger community around that, because I think that human design is an amazing tool, but like it's one that's here to empower us and inspire us, and not one that's here to confine or limit us in any way. So I
Mm.
think that like where I'm growing is actually growing the business far beyond me, and kind
Wow.
of letting a lot of other amazing human design people come in and really create a platform for them. And to just step a lot more into teaching and writing, which is like what I love to do. So moving a lot more from one-on-one into group. And it's been fun, but it's also fun to kind of like be at a point in the business where it's like my job is to kind of make myself irrelevant, and like,
Yeah.
and just like be able to have the right people around us. So it's been really fun to kind of, it's so scary. It's like, no. And at the same time, it's like, yes. So it's been really exciting, and we'll see where it all takes us.
That's so exciting. So I want to, because this is my moment with you, and I
Yeah.
bring anyone who has mattered to me to these women who are listening to this podcast. So my profile is a 6-3 generator.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blown away when I understood what a 6-3 is.
Mm-hmm.
So, for anyone who is not familiar with human design, you have a profile and it's got these numbers, and each of the numbers means something. What would you say those numbers mean? Is there like it's
Yeah.
just a profile. It's just information about who you are and how you live outward and inward. What would you say about the profile?
Yeah. So the profile, the way that I've always defined it is like it's a tool to really align with our purpose
Mm,
and bring us towards kind of alignment in our career. But it's honestly so much more than that. I feel like unsatisfied by that now. I think that because it also gives us a lot of amazing information around how we best market ourselves. It gives us a lot of amazing information around like how we can best cultivate relationships. So there's a lot, but it's really around kind of like our path and relationships and in our careers.
okay. So I'm a 6'3" and a
Hmm.
6. Tell us about the 6 and tell us about the 3, because I was shocked when I understood both of them about me. I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay. So for some reason I have you as a 6'2". Is that you're a
Oh,
6'3"?
I keep saying 6. Yes, I'm a 6 too. I think
Okay,
it's
good.
because someone
I
in my
was just,
family is 3. No,
okay, good.
I'm a
I
6
just want
two
to
because
make sure.
I'm a hermit.
Okay, good. I just want to double check. I was like, I'm going to
Yes.
look that up
No, no,
wrong.
no, no. I'm
Okay,
a 6
good.
two.
I was just like, I want to make sure I'm giving you the right information. I'm a 6'2" too. So, I love all the designs, but I love 6'2s.
Yay.
When you share a profile with somebody, it's such a nice kind of resonance, even more so than type often. So the 6 is around the fact that you are really here to be such a natural role model and teacher. You're somebody who just carries a lot of innate wisdom, and people often will like just see your advice as like really weighty, as like important to listen to. One of your gifts is kind of like staying above the fray and staying above the drama and offering kind of a very objective perspective on how things are going.
Yeah.
Easy to get pulled down into it all. Important to kind of pull back. What's so interesting about this 6, and you mentioned this a bit in kind of the first phase of your life, is that we often live our life in 3 phases. So the first 30 years of your life was meant to be a time of massive trial and error, a time to just like experiment, try things. It sounds like trying a lot of things that didn't work for you, and but just like it's a time to just like gather experience without really like figuring any of it out. And then 30 to 50, where you are now, is really a time to kind of embody all the lessons you've learned and get a lot clearer on like what you desire to do and like on what feels like you and who you are. It's a great time to like invest in things. It's also a time where you might find that you're more naturally pulling back and seeing things from a higher perspective, and that more people are coming to you for your wisdom. You are meant to hit your prime when you turn 50. This does not mean that you've got to wait until then. It just means that it's meant to keep getting better and better and better. And as you mature, you just become such an embodied example of authenticity that you
Mm,
inspire others to be themselves by just being yourself so fully. Is that clear?
I receive it. Yes.
Okay.
Does that feel true for you also as a 6?
Oh my God, so much so. And it's just so funny looking back because I my 20s were a little bit wild. And I kind of like
Mm,
look back on that time, and it feels like I like so recognize her. And it also feels like just such a different time. You know what I mean? And it's
yeah.
so funny. I met my husband when I was 23, and we got together when I was 26, I believe. But it was so funny because the first couple of years, he was just like, there's no way I could date Erin. You know what I mean? We're just like on such
Wow.
different life paths. But I was basically just like trying all these things, mostly to discover like that they didn't work for me.
Mm,
And then like when I turned 30, I literally moved to the woods. And so,
wow.
and then got married. It's just like a whole, my whole life has transformed. But I think that like, I discovered human design when I was 25, and I'm so grateful because it really gave me a bit more permission in that time to be like,
Mm,
it's okay to like drop things and walk away from things and decide I don't like things. And like, I don't have to like figure it all out right now. Like my job is just to like experiment as much as possible. And I think
mm,
that was a really freeing thing to discover in my 20s.
love it.
So resonate with you too.
Totally. For me,
Yeah.
when I turned 30, that's when I had my son. And when my son was born, so he was born in November, my birthday's in December, and that was the year I developed anxiety and depression. And it became the catalyst. I tell him, like, in my mind to him, I'm like, when you entered the world, you reordered my world.
Yeah.
Because he did. He now was this entry point that my path changed from 30 on, because I started doing inner work, and I was like, why am I so sick, and what's wrong, and how did this
Mm.
happen? And it's just so funny because I've been going through my whole journey of this, not knowing this was a part of my design. At
Yeah.
30ish, that's when it's going to happen. I was literally 30
Yeah.
when he was born and this discovery happened. I need to tell you one other thing. This was really cool.
Yeah.
This is why human design is so wild. Before I knew about human design, no, I had heard of human design right before it, but I did not know my profile at all. And last June of last year, I went to a Sedona Soul Retreat, and met with this intuitive. I thought I was going to an intuition class. I went for like the 6-day healing for myself, and I thought I was going to learn intuition. And she was an intuitive. I had never had a reading before.
Mm.
And she was like, so, here's who you are. She was like, you're very ambitious. You've been living life. You're finding your authenticity right now. And she said, it started at 29, right around 30. And she said, but when you hit 50, you will come off. She said, you'll come off the rooftop and you will be a wise woman. And I was
Wow.
like, what? I have to wait till I'm 50? Like, what are you even saying to me? And this woman only knew my first name. She was not
Wait,
allowed
she didn't
any
know
other
your human
information.
design?
She didn't know my human design, Erin.
Wait, you know
Look
that's
at
the
me.
language of human design, though, off the rooftop? That's
No.
how that's in human design. We talk about like, I don't use that language, but like at 50, you come off the
You
roof.
know what? I might be blending the fact that I
Okay.
know that, but she said that I have it in a little pink notebook
I
out
was like,
here. She
what?
literally, no, she said, I might be blending that, but she said, I'm not kidding. Cause she said at 50, you'll
That's
be settled. You'll
amazing.
be accomplished. You'll be like financially secure. Like you will have learned all these lessons. But she was like, the next 20 years for you are healing and
Mm.
leading and finding what works and different perspectives and all this stuff. And I was just like, I have to wait till I'm 50 to be safe. Like, what are you saying? And then I got my human design and it said
Yeah.
at 50. And I was like, how? Like, this is what's so crazy to me, Erin. She only knew my name. You don't even know me, and I got a book from
Mm-hmm.
you. Like
Mm-hmm.
this thing that tells me date and time of when I was born and where. Everything about it fits who I am and what I've been going through. It's wild. Like, what do you have to say about that? Like,
I just think that I think it's wild. I think it's honestly the only answer. I think that we have to acknowledge that. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it's rather than just being like this, of course we do like know this, like it's totally wild that we could know this much information. And I think that, but like people's experience of it is the most important thing. Like when I learned
yeah,
my human design, I was just like, oh, and I've studied many things and learned many things. But when I discovered my human design, I was like, oh my God, like I felt like somebody was giving words to my internal experience. And like, I think that's what I love most about human design is that it doesn't actually tell us anything new. It just gives us a language for things we've always felt. And because people like feel that so deeply, they're just like, oh my God, yes. So
yeah.
I think all I can say is like, it is totally wild,
And
you
how,
know? Yeah, go ahead.
for me, it made real that like for my whole life, I felt like I have a purpose. And for my whole life, I've believed in something beyond me.
Mm-hmm.
And to find that information, it was like, this is bigger than me.
Yeah,
This is all not for
totally.
nothing. That like this is in the stars. Like it just made me feel safer in this human
Mm-hmm.
experience because sometimes it feels so confusing. So
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what it felt like for me.
I love that. I think it's like it's so much bigger, and I think it's so powerful to be reminded of that. And also
Yeah.
to be like, wow, a stranger is like mirroring back to me, like these things, and like it's all connected in ways that I can't even imagine. Like there's a bit of a magic to it, which is like pretty amazing.
I know. And the other part of my profile that I
The
just
two.
want to mention as we wrap up is the two. Yeah. And I found out I'm a hermit and I'm an extrovert who also introverts. And
Totally.
I thought that was a problem. People would be like, where'd you go? I'm like in group chats that I never talk in. They're like, then I'll pop in. And they're like, oh, I forgot you were here. Cause I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, it's so, and none of us are meant to hermit all the time, but I think
Right.
when we have that two in our profile, like time alone and solitude to just be in your own flow and do your own thing is so nourishing from your kids, from your partner, from all of it. And
Hmm.
also what's cool about the two is that like you just have this like innate genius about you. It's like you can study all the things, you can learn all the things, but like you're just going to do things in your own unique way that's kind of inexplicable. And so it's like a big lesson for us with the two is to really lean into the things that feel easy and natural to us and trust that like honestly our greatest gifts, the things that like we're meant to be the most compensated and like recognized for are the things that are the most innate. And often we can't see them and other people have to help us see them.
That
And
was
so
a
that
challenge. Was that a challenge for you?
totally,
Because I was like, people would be like, can you teach me how to sell like you or magnetize
yeah.
like you? And I was like, what are you saying? Like, I'm not sure. Here's what I said. And how I almost had to like sit back and say, what's happening here? Because I couldn't see it on myself.
Yeah. And I think that some of it you can't teach, some of it you
Yeah.
can, of course, but it is, yeah, it's hard to like not be conscious of it. I think like so much of my experience with it too has been like, am I allowed to get paid for that? Like that really just comes so easily. Like, is that okay? You know, and it is just like often we don't assign worth to those things because they feel so innate, but it's like that's actually where we have like the most worth, the most value, the most to share. And so that can feel really nice. Like it can be okay and it can be easy.
It's so amazing. So tell everyone where they can reach you and
Yeah.
just what's happening next, in your world so that we can be a part of it.
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm at Erin Claire Jones, as well as Human Design Blueprint. If you want to get started, the Blueprint book is a beautiful place to start. The discount code is Kelly10. You can find that at humandesignblueprint.com. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is going to be the course in November. And then I also just launched a new community called Blueprint Sessions. And it basically is a monthly membership where I will do a live reading for somebody and then we'll kind of like really dig into it together and I'll answer people's questions. So it's a way to kind of really learn human design through case studies and live readings, which is a very kind of like new way of doing it, but I think is the practical application that I think a lot of people have been looking for.
It's so fun. I love it.
Yeah.
Question. Are you going to look up your daughter's
Totally.
blueprint at the minute she's born?
Yeah. We'll definitely note the time,
Yeah.
We've already like looked at some possibilities, but I think that like, who knows? But yeah, I'm so curious. I definitely feel like she's going to be a very different design than me and I can't wait to see what it is.
Oh, that's so incredible. Well, Erin, thank you for being here today. Truly, this tool, if I've not already made the impression with everyone, it's been shifting for me in my identity and understanding myself. It's been shifting in my relationships and in my parenting. And so I highly encourage everyone go get their blueprint. You can use Kelly10 as the code. And I can't wait for everyone to tag us and tell us how they're living by their human design. So thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. And thank you for listening. My goal is to empower as many women as possible. If this episode supported you in any way, I would love it if you'd leave me a review or let me know on Instagram. You can take a screenshot or tag me or just shoot me a DM. If you're looking for any kind of additional support, don't hesitate to reach out. See you here next Tuesday.